Good morning, Nigeria. As I always say, and especially on this fine Monday morning, TVC has a finger on the pulse and our eyes constantly on the streets. And here on the Trending Now segment, we bring you trending stories that are shaping the world that you and I live in. We begin today with this submission, where another tragedy linked to a Dangote truck is making headlines, this time in Auchi, Edo State, just outside Omega Fire Ministries. Reports say that 3 people lost their lives when 2 trucks, one belonging to Dangote Cement, another unidentified truck, and a GLK Mercedes-Benz were involved in an accident. Now, Apostle Johnson Suleiman, the general overseer of the church, whose attention was called to the scene, has now spoken out, and his reaction is going viral. Have a look at what he had to say.
The young boys, they walk over time. You can see them that they have been driving for like 2 days. No sleeping. There are things that are unavoidable, but that kind of death is avoidable. What kind of human being is that? Your truck is just...
Now, this comes barely a week after Big Brother Naija star Fina raised alarm over her sister, Ruth Otabo, who had both legs amputated after a Dangote truck crushed her near Auchi Polytechnic. Now, that story, of course, gripped the nation. And now, with another accident happening so close by, the question is growing louder. How many more lives must be lost before decisive action is taken? And what measures can we as a society, and indeed the Dangote Group, put in place to ensure that trucks are properly regulated, that corporations are held accountable, and most importantly, that pedestrians can walk our streets without fear? I believe that it is pertinent that we enforce corporate responsibility on Nigerian companies and on Nigerian roads. Corporate justice is important. If you ask me, this is all I'll say on it. 3 times an accident, 4 times is a pattern. Let's take a look at social media. Veronique Ton says, this is beyond painful. How many more lives must be lost before strict regulations are enforced on these Dangote trailers? Families are being destroyed in seconds. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Very apt. And Okuya says, we can't talk about these reoccurring tragedies without mentioning the deplorable state of these roads. The drivers have their faults, but the road itself is a disaster waiting to happen. Moving on, this flight isn't landing anytime soon. The embattled Ibom air passenger at the center of last week's viral controversy, Miss Comfort Emanson, has finally spoken out, giving her own account of the incident that gripped national attention. The young lady expressed gratitude to those who stood by her during her ordeal, saying that the support that she received helped ensure her release. She says that an air hostess physically assaulted her, tearing off her wig, yanking off her jewelry and ripping her t-shirt. Actions that she says were not captured on camera in the videos that we all saw. Comfort also mentioned that the pain and humiliation from this assault triggered her retaliation. This is what she had to say.
I never expected that, like tearing my clothes and videoing everything, videoing me, my body outside, my naked body outside, plus the pain. Imagine me going to sell a house or advertise a house or try to bring a client to buy a house now, and they are looking at my body. How do I even face them, knowing that my body is out there? How do I face the whole, like, everybody that saw that video, knowing that my body is out? How do I even like go for business? Imagine me going for business and somebody is looking all on my body.
Now, her version of events has been corroborated by some eyewitnesses who came forward in the media last week. But still, she insists that she only wants one thing now, to move on and return to her normal life. Meanwhile, her father, Mr. Emanson, has also spoken out in a viral video. He expressed deep anger and disappointment over the treatment meted out to his daughter. This is what he had to say.
Is that what you said? I don't know. I don't even know how many people are going to pay my bills. What is that? Rubbish us. This I don't know exactly what you said. I don't know. I don't even know how many people are going to pay my bills. What is that? Rubbish.
I think Ms. Comfort Emanson's story reminds us about the concept of digital permanence. One moment of humiliation has left a lifelong digital footprint. Let's take a look at social media. Henry Rawlings says, your daughter should learn some manners. We'll take one more submission. And Ray Fixie says, this is what I've been waiting for. Ibom Air needs to be sued. They must pay up so that next time they'll be professional enough not to do the same to other passengers. This is very interesting. Team, we are seeing here the Dangote truck. Unfortunately, 3 lives have lost. And I want to say here on air, may their souls rest in perfect peace. On the other hand, Miss Comfort Manson's father saying, how are you going to pay my bills? I wonder the correlation between his bills being paid and justice for his daughter.
Well, a man will always think of bills, you know, always think of how the bills will be paid and where the money will come from. But the stories, first of all, let me commend you for the way you pick your stories. Both of them have to do with image, and I really like that. Dangote, this is one accident too many. Your image as a big business is suffering. So it's about time they started screening drivers that drive whatever truck carries your name, whether it is franchise or it's your actual truck, it doesn't really matter. And after that, train and train and train.
I support that because you can't just put someone behind the wheels, driving a very long truck, moving from one end of the country to another, and then endangering the lives of people. Dangote has always been in the news for good reasons as well as bad reasons. Bad reasons, in this case, we're talking about when it comes to people's lives being lost as a result of reckless drivers who are not well trained. Some of them, I don't know what it takes before they get behind the trucks. So much needs to be done in terms of PR. For the man and the younger lady, I felt it has happened. Just move on. Things happen, disappointments and all of that. Think of the opportunities, grab it, and run with it.
All right, and Olamide, those are fantastic stories. They are all talking about the image, and we know how image is very important. This is my plea to Alhaji Dangote. It's one too many. Even though oftentimes I do not really agree with Apostle Suleiman, but what he said made a lot of sense. We need to checkmate these drivers. I've said it last week on the show. Some of these drivers, they take a lot of substances before they drive. So what I want Dangote to do now, even though I know that he's not the person hiring the drivers, but the people he put in charge to get those drivers, he needs to look into it and make sure that they're hiring people that have their driver's licenses and people that are sound. You cannot just put any young person behind, not just a normal saloon car, behind such a big truck. I'm moving on to Comfort's story. I don't know who put the soundtrack behind what her father was saying, but anyway, what I'll say about it is that it shows that I think she's the breadwinner of the family, if I'm correct. So he is saying that, if his daughter's image is out like that, is she still going to get business? I'm really sorry for what happened to Comfort, because in the society where we live in, the internet never forgets. She can be somewhere talking about business and somebody's watching the video. So it's really a sad one, and I just pray that, she gets past through it. And Daddy, I'm sure God will provide for your daughter to keep blessing you.
I couldn't agree less. But listen, Comfort, Emerson, this is it. It has happened. There's nothing you can do to change what happened. But you can do a lot to retract and reposition yourself for greater good for tomorrow. So go into some state of rebranding and refurbishing your mind and turn this around for your own good. It could even land you, deals with either the entertainment industry or any other kind of place so that this can be turned around for you. Please look ahead, leave what has passed, let it be bygone.
Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. Indeed, team, I have to note that the concept of publicity is very two-edged. It can go either way. And so how she uses it now, right, like you said, Nelson, is very important. I'll move on. In the world of education, in Imo State, the government has announced a new policy banning graduation parties for kindergarten, nursery, and junior secondary school 3 students. According to a memo signed by the Commissioner for Education, Professor Bernard Ikegwoha, only pupils completing primary 6 and students finishing senior secondary school 3 will now be permitted to hold graduation ceremonies, in line with the 6334 education system. The state has also moved to ease the financial strain on parents by prohibiting schools from changing their textbooks annually. From now, each approved textbook must have at least a 4-year lifespan, and schools have now been warned against using unapproved lists of textbooks. The commissioner says that this move is aimed at curbing exploitative practices by schools and promoting uniformity in teaching and ensuring that focus remains on students' actual learning rather than costly ceremonies. On one hand, this brings the focus back to academics. On the other hand, graduations and milestones like this are an important source of pride and motivation for students. But where do we draw the line between celebration and exploitation? Let's take a look at social media. I'll take 3 tweets on this. Bolaji Tunde says, these 2 measures are steps in the right direction. Yearly change of books makes parents spend unnecessarily instead of swapping books amongst their children. It would be fine if this can be replicated across other states. Farouk M had this to say. He says, private school owners want kids to buy new textbooks even when their siblings have the ones they used at home. That is wickedness. Kids should be allowed to use textbooks of their siblings who passed through the same class. Gotta agree with you on that. Baba Ijebu Agbaye says, well, this makes sense and should be implemented nationwide. But the root cause is the failure of government to provide basic education, so these private people will do as they will. Moving on, in international news, the US President Donald Trump says he personally delivered a letter from First Lady Melania Trump to Russian President Vladimir Putin during the Trump-Putin Peace Summit in Alaska. The letter appeals for the protection of children caught in the crossfire of the ongoing war, stressing that all children are born innocent regardless of nationality or politics. While the message avoids direct reference to war crime allegations, it does emphasize that safeguarding children, according to Melania, will serve humanity itself. But the timing of this letter is very notable, as Putin still faces an international criminal court indictment over the alleged transfer of Ukrainian children to Russia, charges that he vehemently denies. Now, Melania Trump, who has often highlighted her focus on welfare and child human rights, she once cited Eleanor Roosevelt as her inspiration, and she says that her aim is to use her platform to advocate for young lives in conflict zones. Of course, this gesture has sparked conversation globally about diplomacy appeals and the role of First Ladies in peace building. I'll say this, the role of First Ladies is very important. They wield what I like to call soft power, the power of compassion, empathy, and they have a unique ability to spotlight issues that presidents and big leaders may sidestep. But let's take a look at social media. I'll take 2 tweets. Dwayne Fontenot says, that looks like a sweet letter to a good friend, not to a war criminal. Someone engaged in murdering civilians or kidnapping children. It's so ridiculous. Putin probably laughed at this. And Tracy Gallagher says, she speaks from the heart of every American in calling for a world where children, regardless of where they are born, this is rich, while children and babies in Gaza are getting starved, carpet bombed on a daily basis. No word on that from her lips. The irony, I'm begging, is telling. Team, this is very, very important. Oftentimes, and I will say especially in Nigeria, First Ladies get a lot of flack. What are you doing? The work you're doing is small, is just, but it's very important. The soft power they wield and the concept of empathy and compassion cannot be understated, don't you think?
Yes, and it also shows that the woman has a lot of power. I mean, she wrote a letter and gave it to her husband, the President of the United States of America, to go deliver. And he did. Yeah. And he did. And yes, I like the fact that the softer side of the Trump family has come to the fore. But like one of your comments said, there are so many other things that are happening that should have been mentioned in that letter. And the textbook thing, I think the country should adopt it.
Amazing.
Yes, it should adopt it. My only regret is that it's coming up when I've finished buying textbooks.
Right. Talking about the Trumps, I see nothing but hypocrisy on the side of Melania and Trump himself. Trump, who has been, who has a 34-count charge of felony, of criminal acts, before, while he was, running for president, they just allowed him to, okay, let him run for president. 1 in 3 persons in Gaza has gone without food for days. And then we see how America is pumping bombs, ammunition to Israel to decimate the lives of the Palestinians. And then we are here, talking about taking lives in Ukraine, a fight that America actually pushed Ukraine to. It's hypocrisy of the highest order. Okay,
so I'll talk about the textbooks. I think in a time where we see there's a lot of hardship in the economy, it's only right for, students to pass on books. Like if I have a senior sister and she's passed through the class, I should be able to use the books rather than going to buy new books again. Let's make it easy on our parents. Sending children to school is definitely not easy.
Indeed. A good one there to the government of Imo State for doing this, but my God, how did we get to the point where pupils in primary schools and secondary are celebrating party for graduation? What will they do when you leave the university or get married?
Nelson, and I tell you see them dancing very energetic. I'm like, you guys don't know, you're just about to start life.
Let us prioritize. So what's all this party for kindergarten?
Absolutely.
Please, so.
Absolutely. Now, team, I might be wrong, but I think Ugo would approve of this. Moving on.